defense was creating some offense for us, and in the second half, we just weren't nearly as good on the glass. They out-rebounded us by 11 in the second half. The points off turnovers got us, and a lot of that had to do with Nick Richards. And we don't have a matchup for Nick Richards. And we didn't do a great job on a lot of their guys, but Nick Richards changed the game. And we know when he plays well, they play well. And that's exactly what happened tonight. And we just weren't as aggressive as we needed to be on the glass. And we knew going into this game, at least I knew going into this game, when it comes to the level of physicality, when it comes to the level of speed, when it comes to the level of aggressiveness, this would be unlike anything we had played at this point, and it was. And we just got to learn how to compete better on the glass. And I think there were times in the second half we let our offense, it was good at times, but I think we let that offense get us a little quiet in the second half, and then we weren't nearly as good with what we wanted our defensive coverages to be. And then we got a little too loose, we got a little too disconnected from our man, and they made us pay. And then when it's going like that and they're aggressive, that's where the rebounding changed on us. So, go ahead.
Questions?
Go ahead, I can hear you. Go ahead. No, you know what? Somebody had told me when they're watching this that we probably need to do the mic because they can never hear the question. Okay, all right.
Well, I got a mic, so I guess I'll go,
Okay.
Coach. The players never really talked a lot about, I guess, a lack of communication on the court, and that was a big problem, particularly in the second half.
Yeah, we got quiet defensively. We were not nearly as good in the way we wanted our coverages to be, and we weren't as aggressive with them, and it got a little quiet. I think we got they were just more aggressive than we were, and we didn't keep the same level that we had in the first half. And I think with young teams, and they didn't have this drought tonight. You know, they didn't have as good a first half because they didn't have Nick Richards in, and they had a much better second half because Nick Richards was in. I mean, he's playing at a very high level right now, and we had some scoring, but we didn't have a lot of scoring. And I think with young teams especially, they start thinking about the last shot or the next shot more than they think about the next stop, and that's something you have to deal with in youth. And I think some of that happened tonight. And I think some of that happens when you don't have that catalyst on the defensive end that's setting the tone and setting the table for everybody else. And when the communication's not coming from all five, it's still got to get propelled by a couple of guys. And I don't think we had that as much in the second half.
Coach, there's about a 3-minute stretch there late in the midway through the second half that Anthony's on the bench over there with you. I don't know if it's coincidental that they made a little bit of a push at that time when you brought him back.
Well, he's got to rest some, right? I mean, we've got to get him out of the game some. There's no rhyme or reason to he wasn't doing this or that. I mean, it's a stretch run coming, and we've got numerous guys. I mean, the same thing probably happened. I don't have it in front of me, but in the first half, right? I mean, we don't have 40-minute players, right? That's not what we have. And on a team that was number one in the country at Indiana, Victor Oladipo played 28 minutes a game. Cody Zeller, I think, played 30. They were number one for like 13 weeks. It's there's certain nights guys are going to have to play a lot of minutes, but you've got to get them the rest because you've got to be able to look ahead and see the stretch run, and then sometimes that's just the way it works out. But we don't have a 40-minute guy in this team.
Coach, how much emphasis did you put on preparing Anthony and Edwards and your other primary ball handlers for the defensive anchor that is Ashton Henry?
Ashton's tremendous. Yeah, we prepare for every game, and it was really no different with today. Get good screens. You know, he's going to blow up the handoffs. We've got to do a good job there, and their defense was good. Our shot selection at times wasn't so good. But I mean, if you remember, we got some things at the rim, you know, fairly easily too, and that's part of it. Sometimes you just got to take what the defense is giving you. And the biggest thing with Kentucky is moving them. But we missed some open shots as well. They did as well. I mean, it's part of the game. But I don't know if this was any defensive situation where one or two guys just changed the tone for us. We didn't rebound, right? We lost the game on the glass. That's where we lost the game. And then the points off the turnovers. Because some of our turnovers were unforced turnovers. They weren't as much by the defense, right? I mean, they were unforced. And that's all part of it. I might have a different view when I watch the film, but that's my recollection right now. We good?
Tom, as far as the atmosphere tonight and the star power in the stands, the media room was packed, and
potential was great. I thought that our crowd was unbelievable, and it's gonna hit me here in about 30 minutes, how disappointed I am for them, right? Because we had such a great crowd, such an electric atmosphere, people lined up, and we just gotta continue to have that. That's part of building a program. Part of building the program is not to have it just when Kentucky comes or coming off a great win like we had the other day. It's getting it more consistent, and I hope that's gonna be the next step for us, because our fans have been unbelievable this year. So it was an incredible atmosphere. The atmosphere did everything they could do to help us, but they couldn't help us get a rebound, unfortunately.
Coach, you mentioned the youth on your roster. What are some of the positives you can take away from guys, playing in an atmosphere like tonight? And
It's their first SEC game. 10 guys are on the roster that had their first SEC game. That's perspective. And I have to keep that in perspective. And I will in a couple of hours. All right, but right now, I mean, that's what it is. 10 guys laced it up for the first time in an SEC game. One's a senior, but it's his first SEC game. So that's what I have to remember. And that team has got they're young, but they've also got guys that have played a lot of minutes on that team. And they deserve to win because they dominated the glass and they got to the rim. And we did not get very good defense from our better players tonight.